Hi, I'm Kim O'Rourke. When I started quilting, I could not cut squares. There's a confession for you. I'd learned how to cut strips, that's what I was taught, but nobody actually taught me how to cut squares. And I was going to classes as well. So I'd got myself these amazing patchwork square rulers, which are fantastic, but they're actually not very useful for cutting squares, even though you think they would be. And I couldn't work out how to get them on the fabric properly. So I'm going to teach you how to cut squares now. It is a question I get asked, and I've been asked to do a video, so here we are. So we're going to do it together in real time. So this is going to be about 5 minutes long, so I hope you'll stick with me. You can put it on pause and get everything lined up at your end. So I'm going to put these to one side, and I'm going to switch camera so that you can see. There we go. So we can now see my cutting table. Now what I've got here is 20 centimetres of fabric that's been cut off the bolt. It's been I've given it a good press because we don't want any of the crinkles and the creases that come when fabric's been on the bolt for a little while. Now I know that you can't see that full width, or it's half a width because it's already folded. I know you can't see that, so this is a little trick that I'm going to use now to cut, but you can use it at home. So if your cutting space is fairly limited, you can use this at home too. So what I'm going to do is take the selvage end, which is just off camera at the bottom here. I'm just pulling that down. I'm going to fold it up to the fold. So all fabric comes off the bolt, all the quilting weight fabric will come off the bolt folded in half. So keep that there, keep that fold at the top, and just fold your selvage up to it, keeping the lines fairly straight. And then smooth it down at the bottom. Let's just get that in camera. Smooth it down at the bottom so you're sitting on one of the grain lines along the bottom, and that fold there should be on one of the grain lines there. So make sure it is. Smooth it all down to make sure it's sitting on those grain lines, because that's going to be your first straight line that we're going to go from. So the first thing that we're going to do, as is always the case with patchwork, is we're going to give ourselves a nice straight edge. So we're going to get rid of this little bit on the right hand side, is our first job. Why is because when fabric has been left to its own devices for any amount of time, even a few minutes, we can get all these little fluffy bits of thread coming off the edge here. It may not be lined up properly and so on. So we need to get ourselves a nice straight edge. So we're going to get our normal patchwork ruler. This is a 24 by 6.5 inch ruler. It's got a nice rough bottom, so it doesn't slide so much on the fabric. We're going to line that up on the fabric. So I'm going to get one of the horizontal lines along the top here on this top fold. So it's sitting on a grain line. It doesn't matter which lines, we're not measuring at the moment. We're just using our lines on our ruler to get our first straight line. So we've got a horizontal line going across the fold at the top, and we're going to look at the same at the bottom. Now, a couple of moments fiddling will help pay dividends later on, because with all of our patchwork we want accurate cutting and accurate sewing, obviously, and part of the accurate cutting is just making sure that we're working in the right place on the fabric and working on the grain lines and on the straight lines of the fabric. So you want to just spend a couple of moments fiddling, and we can see here that we've got our bottom fold nicely on one of those lines going across there. I don't know if you can see that on camera, but I promise you it's going along there straight. And then along the top here, let's move that very slightly, we've got our top grain line, our top fold going along a horizontal line there. So I am comfortable that we've got a straight line there and we've got a straight line along the bottom. And when I am happy with those two lines, I hold my ruler in place, get my rotary cutter, and we're going to get rid of that little bit there. That was, I don't know, it's about 1/4 inch I've cut off there. It just depends on how much how much is all squiggly and a bit on the her. There we go. It's a really technical term for you. Is it on the her? And we need to straighten that up and get rid of it. So how much? No more than 1/2 inch that you need to cut off generally. So having cut that off, I'm just going to straighten that up, because look, we've got a little dodgy bit at the top. I am not happy with that. So I'm just going to do that again. I think my ruler must have moved. There we go, that's better. So I've got beautifully straight line. So I've got my straight edge there. I'm going to flip that over so it's on my left hand side. If you are left handed, you need to do this in reverse, by the way. You'll find it a bit easier. So my nice fresh cut edge is on my left hand side. My ruler is now going to come over here, because one of our rules in patchwork is that when we're cutting, the fabric that we want to keep is always going to be underneath our ruler, just in case when we're cutting there are any mishaps. So let's just say I want a finished size of a 4-inch square, which means I need to cut 4.5 inches to allow for the seam allowances. So we're going to cut some 4.5-inch squares from here. So my first job is to find my 4.5-inch line on my ruler and line that up against that left hand cut edge that you've just cut. So that's lining down there. And then the same as we've just done, we want to be making sure that we've got one of these horizontal lines along that top fold line, which is on the grain at the top. And again, down at the bottom, is there a straight line going across the bottom here? And if it's not, I'm just going to pull my fabric into position to make sure that I've got a straight line going across the bottom on that fold there. It's still straight up the edge. If you need to adjust it, because a couple of seconds adjustment will make all the difference when you're sewing. You do not want wonky squares. So if I'm happy that that is straight along there, straight down there, straight down there, I'm going to hold my ruler, get my rotary cutter and get rid of that bit there. So I've now got a 4.5-inch strip there. And I'm going to turn this round and just open it up here, and you can see I've got a fold at one end and I've got a couple of selvages at the other end. I like to start at the selvages end, and this is a really speedy way of cutting your squares very quickly. And then line this up, and I'm going to get rid of these selvages. So just like before, we're going to get our ruler over the top, get one of the horizontal lines going along our top line, and one of the other horizontal lines, which will be 4.5 inches, going along that bottom cut line. When I'm happy that those two are in position, then we're going to get rid of those self edges, just like that. And then this, again, hold this together, and this flips over to become our left hand side, because now we're going to start cutting our squares. So we get our ruler again, 4.5 inches over on that left hand edge that we've just cut. We want a horizontal line along that top edge there, make sure that's accurate. And again, make sure that we've got an accurate line going along that bottom cut edge. And if you are happy that all those three lines, three sides of the square are all lined up, you're on that 4.5 inch, do a double check. There are many times I've gone to cut and discovered that I'm in the wrong place. It happens to all of us. So just do a double check before you start cutting. If I'm happy it's 4.5 inches, I'm going to cut up there. And you will see now you've got two 4.5 inch squares, all beautifully cut. And if you go along this strip in the same way, you will get your 4.5 inch squares. So we'll probably get 1, 2, 3. And you may find when you get to the end, if you open up that fold, you might just have enough to do another one there, just depends. So it's a very quick and easy way of doing your 4.5 inch squares, is to keep it all folded in half. So hope that has been helpful, and I will see you on the next video. Bye for now.